All right, good evening and welcome everyone to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's May 26th, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John.
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Here. Mr. Long is absent. Mr. Soderman.
Here.
Mr. Palma.
Here.
Mrs. Stark. Here. 5 present. We have quorum.
All right, first item on the agenda is a preliminary plat, Dries Homes, Walnut Ridge. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for a proposed subdivision, including 27 homes located off Old 3C Highway, just south of Big Walnut Elementary School. And we're gonna go ahead and untable this. I'll make a motion to untable.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Palma. Roll call.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mr. Palma.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Soderman.
Yes.
Mrs. Stark.
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
All right, we have the applicant here. If you can introduce yourself. There we go. Come on up. Let us know what's changed, what we need to focus on. We'll get into the staff report. Welcome back.
Thank you. Dries Homes. Since we last met, we have shown the attachments for the connections to the school as well as the trail, and then we did bring the sidewalk all the way down to the front there. Since we last met, we also got approval for a variance. The variance we're requesting is an extension of the cul-de-sac length. And we got that approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Great.
Outside of that, not much has changed with the plan. And I'd ask for you guys' comments and questions.
All right, great. If you want to hang there just for a moment, in case we do have comments, questions, do we have anything that you would like to add?
Just as the applicant said, BZA did approve the variance request going from 600 feet for a cul-de-sac to 1,400 square feet or 1,400 feet to a cul-de-sac, pardon me. And then a little bit on the process. So now that we're through the BZA, variances have been approved. The preliminary approval allows for further development of the plat. So the plat will still come back to this commission and get final approval from the city council. So once they're ready with the final plat, do further engineering, they'll be back in front of this board for further details. They'll go to city council for final approval. And once they do that, then individual homes will be submitted and be approved administratively. So I wanted to give a little background on that too.
Just for the audience and the members, this is a development that's already zoned. And we did have a chance to ask our streets department if they would have any issues with the long cul-de-sac. I know that's already been approved, but also should be a consideration for our group.
Jake did not have any comments at this and said it wouldn't be an issue on his team. And then I also reached out to BST&G Fire District, and they said as long as they had the proper signage at the end of the cul-de-sac for no parking, they provided the fire apparatus radius turning that checked their boxes, and they said they didn't have any issues with it either. And then the school did reach out regarding the variance. I sent them the information. They did not submit anything for the variance request, and they did not ask any more inquiries about the preliminary plat at all.
Great, thanks. I just had 2 technical questions. One, where your mailbox is going to be?
The end of the cul-de-sac.
All the way down?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that denoted anywhere, like on the plan?
It is not, I haven't had it.
Is it going to be on private property?
I'm not sure.
And then what about parking or no parking on one side of the street? Anything?
There's only parking on one side.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Appreciate it. The side of the fire hydrants?
The opposite side. South side.
Okay, parking on the opposite side of the fire hydrant.
Yes.
Perfect, thanks. All right, any other questions for the applicant or staff?
No.
All right, so you're looking for an approval? The
Yeah.
preliminary plat, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Miller. Discussion? When you come back for a final plat, will you have the mailboxes called out for us? Thanks, appreciate it. Discussion, roll call?
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mr. Palma,
Yes.
Mrs. Stark,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
All right, great, thanks.
Thanks.
All right, next item on the agenda, Major Commercial Site Plan Local Provisions LLC. The applicant is requesting approval of a major commercial site plan for commercial development that includes 3 buildings and the associated parking lot at the corner of Sunbury Meadows Drive and West Granville Street. And we have the applicant here, Mr. Dana Donnell. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Do I need to pledge, sign in or introduce myself?
Introduce yourself for your project and what we're considering.
Donnell. I've lived in Sunbury since 1996. I'm the owner and manager of Local Provision. Yeah, so thanks for your time and your service to the community.
Of course. Let me go through the presentation.
Sure. I don't think the council has seen the total project. Before, we were just involved in the, what we call phase 1, which was the tap rooms, restaurant to the rear. So that's the phase 1 part of it. Now we've expanded the concept into the whole project, so we can move through the construction approval, hopefully. If you move down, okay, we'll go back to that one right there. There are, there's a landscape concept, but I have not gotten to the place of identifying what tree this is or what bush this is, and that's coming, that's pending. Okay, so if we move down, we'll walk what's through. That's a plan, this a plan there, that's not changed, and there's some process, material process. That's phase 1, that's the back building. We can stop there for a second. My motivation on the first building was to introduce something into Sunbury that's not here. It's a little more modern. It's got the exostructure on the steel. Yeah, I just wanted to get out of the box just a little bit, bring something new to the city. But in the same light, as you move down and look at the front buildings. So there's some elevations. You've seen the outdoor space. Okay, now, so there's material process on the buildings. If you get down a little bit further, you'll get some good concept drawings, a little bit more. There we go. So what you're seeing here is you're on the corner of Granville and Sunbury Meadows. So this particular scheme, I thought, well, we're gonna push the limit on the back of it. I want it on the front elevation because this is all traffic coming right into the center of the square. And I wanted to try to capture the essence of the village or city now, but the whole notion of let just be inviting, it's beautiful, it has, I'm trying to pick up the charm of the city of Sunbury. So this particular corner, I can tell you what my tenant desires are, but this would be a restaurant space. And as you move down, there are 2 buildings in the front that face Granville. So you're looking at the first building on the corner. And as you can see there's outdoor dining. We've got a walkway along the front of it. As you move down further. So that's the side. Now you're on Sunbury Meadows looking to the east. Now you're moving a little bit further down. So here's the building that was on the corner, and now this is the whole concept of that first building that faces Granville. So that's about 11,000 square feet. So could be 3 to 4 tenants in that, depending on what their concept is driven by, what their space is driven by. If you get down further, you'll see. Now, this is, okay. This is the building on the east side. And let's see here. Now I'm trying to. Yeah, so you'd be driving into the parking lot, and this is the rear of the building. So instead of the facade being all in the front facing Granville, we thought, with the customers back in building 1, in the community gathering space, that it should have the same presence from the rear in the parking lot. So the back has the facade, the back looks like the front. So there's entries both to the front and to the rear. So traditionally, you might have a strip plaza that would look nice in the front, but the back would look like blocking. So we're trying to get, a pretty look on both sides of it. Let's see what's below this. Okay. There you go. And I'm pulling into the parking lot, front end parking. This is building C. Again, the tenant base, these are just place settings, but it's my desire that on the corner of the west building would be maybe what would be referred to as a white napkin restaurant, some higher end. And then here's another space that could facilitate a restaurant. There would be in between the tap room in the back and the white napkin on the west side. So you can see that the front is, it's just not a traditional strip plaza. We've broken it up so that it's visually appealing. I just wanted there to be a lot going on in it. So that's pretty much it. The plan is not changed from when I was first in here. Although we did add one more trash dumpster space. And that's driven by if the restaurants, populate the space the way I'd like it to, we just want to facilitate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You want to hang out tight? We'll be right back to you. Alex, what's
Thank-
staff report?
Thank you, Mayor. So as Mr. Downhill said, this was originally approved back in 2023 as part of the Romanelli Commerce Park Apartments plan, amended in 2025 to be very similar to what the site plan includes today, including the moving of Building A further to the west and then the 2 buildings up on West Granville Street. With that, one of the approvals that was at the amendment was for 194 parking spaces. After discussing with staff and engineering, we would recommend taking that limit down to 177. The 194 includes 17 spots on West Granville Street, and we don't know, contingent upon engineering, some of those spots might need to be removed or the turning radius might be turned. So we figured contingent on engineering might limit those spots, and we didn't want to have to hold them accountable for spots that were eliminated and readjust the site plan. So there's 177 internal spots on the site plan with 17 street spots on the northern portion of the row. So that was one recommendation that we would have. Additionally, there was no landscape plan or photometric plan originally submitted. I reached out to the applicant. They provided a photometric plan immediately, and then they said they were going to be working on a landscape plan. So there are landscape elements in the site plan that was submitted, and they're working on specific species and a whole worked out landscape plan to submit. So that would be one of the recommendations, if approved, contingent upon submittal of the landscape plan. In addition to that, Mr. Donnell didn't mention, there is connectivity to the trail system to the east as well through Old Orchard Park. that connects in the southeast corner of this. And then there are outdoor seating areas proposed in the elevations. As Mr. Donnell said, there could be changing uses. If they were to have patio spaces, all the shown patio spaces would be internal on the site, so they wouldn't need any sidewalk cafe or any permit for those in addition from this board. So with that, staff would recommend approval of this plan contingent upon a few items. So contingent upon submittal of the landscape plan, and then contingent upon the engineering review, including the work to be done in the right of way. There are several bump outs or proposed in the elevation, so we want to make sure that those would be included in the engineering review. And then finally contingent upon legal review as well. Any questions? Yeah.
All right, I just want to applaud Mr. Donnell. It's really difficult to do what you're proposing doing, make the front and the back facade look the same or similar and make it functional still. So great work there. I love how you broke up the architectural elements. I saw your lay up to the town hall roof pattern on the on the corner building. Nice work there. Also, just for the commission, I definitely support the reduced parking. I think I still feel like our parking requirements are exorbitant, and I mean, it causes additional issues like water runoff issues and underutilized commercial space that's very close to the downtown. I had just one technical question and we'll open it up. And that is, as you're exiting your parking lot, either on the west side or the north side, will those be one lane in and a left and a right turn out?
I think that the plan shows, this is entrance and egress, both sides. That's on the Sunbury Meadows. And it's similar here too, entrance or egress.
It looks like you might have the space for like a right turn, left turn out, which is fine. And I'm not saying this is a contingency on whether we approve or not. It just wasn't designated there. It looks like you have the amount of space to do it. And since you've got the chicane, probably 100 feet in, it looks like you would have the space for what I would call 3 lanes, 1 in and 2 out. Does that sound right?
I think it's 1 in, 1 out, but a part of this, skew and the curving, it was to facilitate the parking.
Okay.
So then it opened up just for the entrance and egress, and then I think the same thing's down here. There's stairs right here in a planting area, and I have to talk to Mr. Tim Lai about that.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions, comments for staff or Mr. Donnell?
Mine is actually a concern. I think 3 restaurants in this area is a little bit much. Unless they are so different in the timing of their use. And so I would be concerned of what type of restaurants you put in there because of while 177 parking spaces is a lot, if it's a Friday or Saturday night and it's a popular place and you've got 3 popular, it's not going to be enough. And so I really like, a variety so that the parking space can be shared for those type of facilities.
Can I comment on that? So on the first building, which is the one to the rear, it's my desire that it be a tap room, and then the space to the west would be like a breakfast lunch place. So that would give you some transition and occupancy times and parking. On the front, it's just a wild guess, Who can I get that I think serves the city well? I'm not really interested in just sticking companies into spaces, and I think that a part of probably what will drive the individual tenants is they'll do the necessary research to to substantiate the validity of their, whatever their offering is. So, yeah, go ahead. You
Okay.
can finish.
The other concern, and it's not, when I use the words concern, I'm not worried. I'm just, these are just things I've noted, is, I would like some type of, and deterrent is too hard of a word. I don't want them to think coming down, going south down Sunbury Meadows is the preferred method. I want something to dissuade them or make it unfavorable or not be the first option that they think.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
So are you referring to customers that would come to the center?
Yes.
Or,
No, I don't want them to think that, oh, this is a shortcut to go and I'm gonna turn left onto Sunbury Meadows and go through the neighborhood.
okay, and then eventually hit Route 3?
Right, or
Okay.
Route 3C, you know, I don't want it to say it's a deterrent, I just don't want it to be appetizing that they go that direction.
Right, well, I hear you. I think that most of the traffic that's gonna be coming up Sunbury Meadows is gonna be out of that large community. The apartments directly behind mine, that's walking.
Mhm.
But there's, I don't know, I forget what the house count is back there. But if you.
About 600.
Yeah, so it's pretty good density, and if you turn left to go down
Just making all of it.
Sunbury Meadows, it's really not very advantageous route to get to 3. It's,
I just want to make sure it stays advantageous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what individual people are gonna decide. I would think that they're gonna hit Sunbury Meadows because they live back there. And everybody else, if they're pulling out of Westerville, or they're pulling out of Centerburg or Johnstown, they're gonna be going right. Or they're gonna be going left, and the quickest path to Route 3 and head home, but. Yeah,
Those are just two things I would,
I wouldn't want to dump a bunch of traffic in that residence.
sort of make it unappetizing, so.
That may be a city, something the city can look at from an
Okay.
engineering perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I'm one of the houses. So that left turn out, I'm the 11th house on the left, so it's already a speedway. I'll chime in and say it's already a speedway. So a no left turn out would be fantastic.
I'd go that far, but making it unappetizing is.
That's unappetizing with the cop sitting there. It is definitely better because if you go out right, then it's a left turn into a light with a left turn. That's 2 left turns versus 1 out to another light. I do it frequently. It's way easier to go on Sunbury Meadows. And I'll speak on my own behalf as a resident. I don't want the extra traffic. That road is already wider. Sunbury Meadows is wider than all the other offshoot, Viola and all those other ones. And there's parking on both sides. And still 2-way traffic. So it is hazardous to say the least on weekends and at drive time. So thank you for bringing that up.
So I guess for the staff, do we have is there gonna be the engineering review that you mentioned, Alex, is that inclusive of traffic study?
Yes, so there will be a traffic impact study done as well with this. So if there's any justification for any of the limitations that you guys have mentioned, those would be brought up at that point.
Okay, so possible stoplight or left turn only lane, that.
Yeah, the traffic generated by this site
Requires that.
required it. Yep, it would.
Thank you.
A couple other maybe just housekeeping questions.
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't come in with any questions, but you said some things that I just wanted to clarify. So all of the on-street parking that's proposed, that is inside the current curb, correct? So it's not going to narrow Granville at all? Or is it going to narrow
It's gonna
Granville?
cut in.
Right. So the current curb
will pretty much stay exactly where it is. All the new spaces will be inside of the current curb.
That's right.
Okay,
That's the way the site plan is.
super. I like the idea of the front and rear facades. Now, how does that, there's two questions here. How does that impact service access for bringing things into those buildings? You know, you're gonna have service vehicles in here bringing materials and goods. They're gonna be going right through the front door. Is that, I'm fine with it, but I'm just curious, is that appropriate? Is that normal?
Well, I mean, in some cases, I suppose it would just depend, is it a retail space, is it?
Everybody's gonna have goods coming in of
Yeah.
some variety during the day.
I would think most of them would come in off the parking lot side.
Okay.
Um,
I agree.
I think that would be the easiest for the tenant.
Okay, the second question here is, there's a proposed or potential restaurant in each of the three buildings, correct?
Correct.
So each of those restaurants, by definition, is probably gonna have a kitchen of some variety.
Correct.
Does a kitchen not require an emergency exit? So you would have to have an egress route out of the kitchen area plus the two entrances you have. You may not know the answer, I'm just bringing it up because I'm like, how do they get out of there if they catch fire?
Yeah, I think that probably what'll happen, you know, given that I get the permission to move forward, the next step is we would move into construction drawings.
Okay.
And then it would be scrutinized by the powers that be.
Oh, you can leave it right there, that's fine. I'm looking at it, I'm like, how do they, you know, thinking out loud. All the dumpsters on the property are all consolidated in one location, correct?
Yeah.
All that bottom corner. Okay. Got that one. You probably, maybe you can't answer this, maybe you can. In your mind, is this a phased development, building A, then building B, then, you know, building A opens and
Yes,
building B?
yes.
Okay, it's not A, B, and C all being constructed, big, boom, they all open together? Yeah,
I'll reach my pockets for so deep that we can just pull the trigger and do, you know, the whole project.
So-
So my intention is it would be phased. We'll do phase one, which is the back building. Go ahead and do all the underground, and pave a portion of the project to facilitate building one.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
For me, thank you so much for the hard work that you, that you and your architect have done to put it all
Yeah.
together. I love the thoughtfulness of keeping the character and all that. My only, just request, I guess, as a mom and community member is that there be, when you're making these choices of who's getting put in these slots, to have middle school friendly shops. Because the middle schoolers, my son being one of them, sometimes enjoys walking from middle school to uptown, to the downtown. And, you know, there's coffee shop, there's candy store,
Yeah,
we've got ice cream. And when I saw this plan, I just, you know, got all the feels and I can see, you know, just giving the kids more things to do. And, you know, they're just spending time with friends. And yeah, so anyway, that's my 2 cents. And I know obviously there's a community right there.
yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah,
Put that under my hat.
yeah, just a thought, because they're good kids. So
Yes.
give them something to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions? So we're looking for an approval or a motion with engineering, pending engineering
Yes.
review. and approval.
Contingent on submittal of a landscape plan, engineering review, including work in the right of way and legal review.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Miller. Also want to say, the attorney who rezoned this property is also in the room, Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
So it was a long time coming, wasn't it? We had a bunch of residents that were showing up and didn't want this, but look at us now. Good deal. All right, roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mr. Palma,
Yes.
Mrs. Stark,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your time.
See you next time.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
All right, next item on the agenda is a preliminary presentation, Gateway District North PCD, Sunbury Holdings LLC. The applicant is presenting a future planned commercial district located off South Wilson Road and the future Sunbury Parkway. And who will be presenting from the applicant? Mr. Shrimp. Come on up, sir.
Where I am, who I am.
Yes.
My glasses on, my age is not friendly to my eyes, and I need to do what I tell my teenage daughter to do, which is when you get in the car, familiarize yourself with it. So, this is,
There it goes.
how do I go backwards, Alex?
Left arrow.
Left here. I'm ruining it.
If you want to point it this way too, it's hooked up to the monitor down here.
There. Whoops, there we go. Okay. I think we're off.
Sir.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the commission for having us tonight. I would also like to say that, I'd like to thank you for your service. And, I know that myself and our team, we do a lot of this. We're really appreciative of the time and effort it takes to serve on the planning commission because it's totally voluntary and sometimes it's not a lot of fun. And you lose a lot of nights away from your kids for it. So thanks for doing what you're doing. Tonight, we're gonna be giving a presentation on a new proposed PCD application. I'm gonna make in the next couple of weeks. Can everybody hear me okay? And this is a project that's been around for a long time. So this presentation is gonna focus on kind of a little bit of history to get people that haven't been involved with it or aware of it, kind of where we've come from, where we are today, and where we're trying to go. The PCD district's name is the Gateway District PCD, or Gateway District North PCD. And we picked that name really, see if I can find laser, this bottom button, the laser supposedly.
Yes.
That's the laser. Right, so north, we call it north because we're kind of the just north band of land here originally is what we bought. And there's more land in the south that we don't own, but we thought that'd be an important just differentiator. Property, the PCD covers 58 acres. And the site is currently under development. And it's under physical development because as part of the interchange improvements in Wilson Road, there was site work done on this project, and some of the dirt that came out of this project was used to build the interchange. So a little bit of context of why we're under construction before we've done the PCD here. My primary goal tonight is to have everybody on the commission, all staff, really have a clear and comprehensive idea of what the application that's coming to you is going to look like. In simple terms, we want everybody to go home and know the who, what, when, where, how, why, how, everything about this project that's coming down the pike. Like Kentucky father used to say. But before I do that, I want to introduce our development team. And there are two reasons for introducing this team. We're all here tonight, really for this project, but as much for this project as other projects we have coming. So I think over the next year and a half, you'll be seeing a lot of these folks because we own, and you'll see later, not just this parcel, but we're getting to buy a parcel to the east towards the creek, and then we're partners with the large landowner with it. See this square box here. So you're going to see us a lot over the next year to year and a half as we move from Wilson Road, or plan to move from Wilson Road to Donegan Road. So first introduction, we have Craig Chillog. Greg's principal and the co-founder of Edge. And Edge is one of the preeminent land planning services companies in the Midwest, if not the country. A little fun fact about Greg is that he was co-founders in that firm with Eddie George. And on top of that, no joke, he plays the jug, like the old jug, like Emmett, jug band, you know, so. Later, if you want to play the jug for me, you can do that.
We will do that.
We have David Fisher, who's our attorney and a longtime friend. Many of y'all know David, 20 plus years, 30 plus years of work up here. David's been involved with, gosh, I mean, a lot of well thought out and well executed developments up here.
Kroger Complex,
Say again?
the Kroger Complex.
This is for lifestyle communities, apartment complex, if you do that, I mean,
Sunbury Mills,
Summer Mills,
Rice Ponds, Rolling Hills. Sorry.
yeah, no. Absolutely. He's a fixture, as they say. And a little fun fact about David, he doesn't like to admit it, but he's the grandson of a famous Methodist minister. So someday maybe I'll tell you who that is. We got Laura Lasheka. Laura handles our government affairs and is public policy matters. She too has been a really long time friend and advisor. And Laura's dad, a little fun fact, played football for Woody Hayes at the Ohio State University and for the Buffalo Bills. We got Ron Beitzel. Ron's been my partner we've been each other's partners for 30 something years. Off and on over the years, Ron handles all our development operations, our brokerage, farmland management. Well, a fun fact about Ron is that he may be the toughest guy I know. He grew up working on a 100-head dairy cattle farm in New Philadelphia. Literally. Just tough work. And then we also have a new member of our team, Jim Yeager. Jim's an analyst and handles our investment relations. So Jim cranks numbers for us. So that's who our team is. We're a small team, but you'll be seeing us off and on probably for the next year and a half. So I wanted everybody here tonight. I can't say I'm pretty darn fortunate to work with these folks, and they're all really good people. So that's a blessing. But so let's get a time horizon. I talked about this project's got some history. What you see here is a timeline going back to 2015. And we're going to go through this timeline in a minute, but back in 2015, our capital partner, Clingo Capital Management, bought 100 acres in green that you see there that spans from I-71 to Glen Road. That was kind of the genesis for this project. KCM, this project's been going on for about 12 years. So 2014 started to now. Since Willows Creek and KCM aren't super well known Central Ohio developers, we're also going to talk a little about who we are and our experience. So I think that's important in context too, not just for this project, but as we move through developing this entire core, hopefully over, it may take 5 to 10 years to do that. Hopefully we'll still be around. So project history. In 2014, Clingo Capital Management was approached by a kind of a would-be developer about investing in land in this area. And then in 2015, they bought that green piece of property. Then 4 years later, project had stalled. Wills Creek came in, our firm, and kind of repositioned the property. We came in to evaluate the investment, evaluate the existing zoning. And then a few months after that, after our evaluation process, we formed a joint venture. That's how we kind of came into the party. KCM was founded in 1959 by Jim Klingel Sr. When he was a student at Ohio State. Within the national real estate community, he's kind of considered to be one of the most prolific and prominent developers nationwide for the last 7 years. And a couple of examples of more noteworthy national projects. In the 70s, he bought all the land and sold and developed all the land that is now the entire city of Thousand Oaks, California. And then shortly thereafter, he and a guy named Jim Rouse bought all the land and developed what is now the city of Columbia, Maryland, which was largely considered to be the first master plan community in the United States. Really, really comprehensive master plan community. Jim's a local guy. He and his wife Sally, for 65 years, live on the Olentangy River on a sheep farm and cattle farm. So they've been in Liberty Township for a long, long time. He's 90 years old. And some of his noteworthy accomplishments, and this is important because I think it speaks to our ability to go the distance, and our DNA is a mentor of his, but he is a former chairman of ULI Foundation, past president of ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute, past trustee at Ohio State, and chairman of the board of United Bend REIT. So he's a local guy. They're local partners. They've been here for a long time. Grew up in Northeast Ohio on a sheep farm. Wills Creek is a small company that I founded in 2012, shortly before we got involved in this project. I mean, we're basically focused on investing in regional projects, but we also have an advisory business that advises large institutions like the Episcopal Church or banks or closely held family offices or high net worth family individuals on solving really complex real estate problems or maximizing the outcomes on opportunities. That's kind of how we became involved in this project, because in 2019 it was a troubled project, and I think that's something the community knows in its history. I don't think it's anything I'm saying that folks in the community aren't aware of. So that's how we got involved. As I mentioned, we're investors. So Wills Creek, we're partners in this deal. We're buying this 40 acres you see right here. That's, you may know it as Hidden Creek Farms. It's Pumpkin Farm, and they have the thing. And then we're partners with this landowner here. It's 100 and something acres, 110 acres. So we have interests in Grove City and around Central Ohio. We've also been involved with projects all over the country: Charleston, South Carolina, Southern California, Phoenix, and just a little few tidbits about me. I grew up in Franklin County. I grew up hunting and fishing up here in Morrow County, Knox County, Delaware County, Holmes County as a kid. Used to buy my hunting licenses at the old hardware store there on the square. I showed sucking sheep in 4-H. I'm an Eagle Scout, former member of the Urban Land Institute Recreational Development Council. I currently serve on the board of directors of the C4 Foundation for Navy SEALs. I serve on the C4 Ranch Development Committee for our ranch in California and on the Finance Committee. So both Clingville Capital Management and Wills Creek were pretty active philanthropically around the country and locally. My fun fact, I guess, is that my older daughter Elizabeth and I like to go out to Coronado when we go volunteer at the foundation, when we go skydiving with the Navy SEALs, and it's a lot of fun. We strap onto those guys and jump out of planes at 13,000 feet. So that's our adrenaline rush. So anyways, that's a little bit about who we are. We're not a household name. We're not, a Schottenstein Development or MI Homes, but we're pretty active around the country. So as I mentioned, back in I'm going to walk through this timeline if I remember how to do this. This is 2015. Clingville bought the property. Gotta go this way. This is 2015 again. If you see here that the box changes, about 700 acres. This land in gray here was annexed to the city of Columbus, or city of Sudbury, basically expanding the city limits effectively from just east, what was just east of Donegan Road, all the way out to 3 Beeson K. We advance. Sorry, I gotta train myself there. It's like looking in the mirror. In 2016, some really mind-blowing stuff happened. You can see that ODOT announced it was moving the interchange, the proposed interchange, from north of 3637 in Berkshire Township to south of 3637 within the city limits. And that was really a game changer for this region and really a game changer for this corridor. Now, unfortunately, the original contemplated funding mechanism for the interchange was structurally flawed. It wasn't grounded in realistic assumptions of how the land could be developed and the tax revenues that can be generated. But those are two big things that happened. It's a massive expansion of the city. And moving the interchange, which Nationwide had wanted to have up north for North Star. Then in 2019, KCM contacted Wills Creek. Project was stalled. It was like truck stuck in the double mud. And we got involved and we partnered and formed a joint venture with Cleanville Capital Management. Took a little bit of time to kind of get the project rekindled or restarted, and it just happened to coincide with the proposed in-hill development. Some really big projects Don Kenny was planning, so there were some regional and national developers who were able to work collaboratively, some openly, some behind the scenes, to get the interchange funded. And that was not easy. It took some real leadership by the county, took some real leadership by the state, and it took some lift by the federal government. And so while that was going on, it felt like not a lot was going on, but everybody was trying to figure out how do you pay for this new interchange. I'm a slow learner. In 2024, excuse me, in 2021, Wills Creek, we bought this property here on the west side of the freeway, just east of Double Eagle Golf Course. And that's within the city. We zoned it, bought it, zoned it, entitled it, and it was sold to Pulte Homes, and it's currently under development. Is the Eagle Creek subdivision, which you not too long ago approved the plat for, and then below it is Eagle Highlands, and that's a 460 unit single family residential community. 230 there are smaller lots and 230 there are bigger lots. Is that correct, Mayor? The south lots are 70 or 80 feet wide. Going on to okay. Taking a driver's test, I flunked. 2024, it's a big year. The city, led by Daryl in the day-to-day effort, generated a new comprehensive master plan. And there hadn't been really a master plan for this corridor. In 2016, I think I skipped over that slide. There was this PCD passed called the Northgate Commerce PCD. And it basically affected this land you see here, our land and the land of the South. But there really wasn't a master plan to guide that PCD at the time. It just happened under kind of an old code, and it was okay, but it's not what this community probably wants or expects now. And it's certainly, I don't think, and Daryl may agree, not in alignment or conformance with the vision of this 2024 master plan. And the 2024 master plan was developed by MS Consultants, Edge, city, the citizens, and the stakeholders, major landholders, and major employers. I think that process took 6 months.
More than that.
A year and a half. So my memory is fading like my eyes. So that's a really important date in this process. And that dashed line really represents a corridor. The master plan basically it applies to everything you see on that blue dashed line. And I'm going to go to this next slide. So in 2025, as you can see, things started like the flywheel started going, right? 2019, the community and us, we've worked to reposition the project. 23 and 24, the city's trying to put a master plan in place so that if the funding gets real for the interchange and it goes, the community's ready and is ahead of that. Advance to 2025, ODOT begins construction on the dark blue interchange. It's actually not that piece, it's this piece. It comes over and then comes back down. So you'll be able to exit, for some of you that aren't familiar with it. As you're coming north on 71, you'll exit onto Sunbury Parkway. You can go east to Wilson Road, and then you go north up Wilson Road. If you're coming from east to west, we'll go down Wilson Road, over the interstate, and then exit and go south on the 71. And it's meant to that intersection, as many of you have sat in traffic, as we all have, 36, 37, we've sat in traffic and you can't go in. But that interchange at 3637 is functionally obsolete. And it's like a carburetor for the car geeks on an old car before electronic fuel injection. You know, if you can only get so much air and fuel through the carburetor, there's really nothing else you can do to make it go any faster. So ODOT decided to make some minimal improvements to this interchange, build the first half of this interchange, and relieve this traffic and provide an overflow. And I guess those were the primary reasons. I don't know if Mayor has anything else to add to that.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I just wanted to hit on the Sunbury Parkway District Plan. That is has been adopted as part of our master comprehensive plan. And did that in 2025 as well.
Follow, I skipped that. Thank you. It followed 2024 that was adopted. Okay, the next big thing that happened, and we were just very fortunate. We approached Ohio Health, who in Ohio Health would want 60 acres up here from the Gottschall family, and they never really wanted that property. But because of the dysfunctionality with the prior developer, the uncertainty around the interchange, and they were worried they were going to get frozen out of the market. They want to do a regional healthcare campus up here. So they bought the Gottschall property with 60 acres. They didn't need 60 acres, but they just needed to take a marker in case this project never happened. So fortunately, I knew some of those folks. David's worked for Ohio Health for years. He knew that they wanted to be here, but the former developer wouldn't sell them that site. And so we went immediately to them when the interchange became real and said, look, we're going to sell this thing to Ohio State for you. And whoever moves quickest gets it. And love Ohio State, but we're not as fast. And Ohio stepped up and bought this site. That was a total win for us as a developer, both in terms of it making the rest of our land more desirable from other users, and financially, it was a very good sale. It was a total win for the city. And here's why: the employment taxes from that healthcare center, let's say it builds out $400 to $600 million over 20 years, will be massive. And one of the things that Daryl and Mayor Brothers was the master plan. One of its primary goals was to identify and recruit catalytic users into the school. Just didn't want to be another, there's another truck stop and, some hotels. And that specific language in the plan. And, catalytic, I don't think there's probably anything more transformational other than a biotech lab than a health campus or a health care center. It's just the amount of jobs ultimately, it won't happen overnight. The amount of jobs, the amount of capital expenditure, high paying jobs, taxes, every place they put one of those healthcare centers, you just see the overall quality of the capital of the neighborhood rise up. And if you think about Avery Road 33, where there's an Ohio Health facility, you think about 161 in Hamilton Road, there's an Ohio Health facility. Usually where one goes, the other goes. So I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately we can't sell any more land to another healthcare user. And we restrict ourselves to do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State doesn't ultimately come up now. It's like Sears and Kmart back in the day when I was a kid, you went to get your tough skins and you went across to get your bike and they were right next to each other, right? And sometimes they just went there because the other one went there. So that was a really big, it was a transformative moment for this project. Not 26? Well, going backwards. Okay, the other big thing that happened, I was like, this is boring. But as you know, as being members of Planning Commission, stormwater, the mayor can share his experience with this, and Daryl and Sean, stormwater drives development. It is the biggest physical constraint a developer has to contend with, even more so than parking. What do you do with the stormwater? Work Senior Ohio Regional Planning, Albany Company, Westerville, kind of all the best of breed institutions are moving towards regional stormwater detention. what that allows you to do is instead of having all of these little ponds all over inefficiently, aggregate into one big pond. And then you can get your density and higher quality development without being scar-faced. And so what we were able to do, it wasn't always painful, and people didn't always like me when we were going through it, and that's what fair cause. It was a hard process, but primarily because of ODOT, not because of the people in ODOT, just because the ODOT process is hard. But what we were able to do is work with the county, city, the Ohio Department of Transportation, Ohio Health, and us. And that's a lot of folks, the mayor really kind of led this process to build a regional detention center basin right here. It takes all the water from the interchange, 90% of it, takes the water from this stretch of Wilson Road, this piece of road, from Ohio Health, and from our site. And actually, we have enough land in this corner of the site to probably take the rest of Sunbury Parkway. That was a big thing. It sounds like boring, like it's like, who wants to talk about storm sewer pipes, you know? But what it did is that it freed up land planning. You know, now you're like, okay, we know where all this stormwater is going. Now let's think about planning this.
I'll show you where it's done wrong on this. So you'll be familiar across from Tanger Outlet Mall, kind of where the blue arrow is. Like when the go up to the left.
That doesn't work. Up here.
Yeah, on the other, go to the left a little bit right. There's a big detention pond right up along the interchange to the left, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is where, you know, ODOT back in the day placed it. It's like, this is the easiest, but it's also the most valuable land. And so originally, when ODOT approached us, they just put placeholders in terms of like the acreage that you need to, you know, have stormwater in, and it was basically where like Will's is. You know,
They know it was valuable land.
yeah, right on the corner, and it's like all the way across. And so we really encourage Mr. Shrim and his team to look at this comprehensively, and they did. It did take a while to get through, but I think it's a really good model for us to follow going forward, because it does allow the highest and best use of the land to be used for development.
I think it was the first time the city and the county and everybody had gone through the process. And it's just hard, you know, the first guy through the wall always pays the biggest price, right? But it got done, and the outcomes I think been fantastic. And it was a double win because we dug this giant pond, and that dirt could then go into the interchange to build those ramps you saw. So that brings us up to 2026. I don't know if this will advance or not, and if it won't, not advance all at once, hold on. Trying to go back. Spoiler alert, you're gonna see pictures. Okay, so 2026, where are we today? The proposed Wills Creek proposed Gateway District North PCD. And that PCD, this proposed PCD, will affect this 60 acres. It's 58.222 something acres, but for the sake of conversation tonight, it's 60 acres. And that's what we're here to discuss tonight. You know, the timing behind why we're here is really relevant to this. There's a process. Some of you are new. I know I met with Jason. I know Mark's new. I think Mark's new to the commission. Is that right? But there's an entitlement process. It's kind of that every agency in the country or government follows. Sometimes they call it different things, but it's essentially 3 steps. This first step here, Edge put all this stuff together for us. The first step is vision. It's area specific, so it's the core. It's land uses, it's corporate character, it's development pattern. It's balancing the market study with the stakeholder input. So the city gets a market study, and the market study says, well, this is what you do there. What those people are consultants, none of them are actually, you know, developers. They don't really know what's financeable and what's financeable. And so more rightly, the city then brings up the other stakeholders, the developers. I think it was us and TRK and
There's utility providers, the schools. I mean, there's a lot of stakeholders.
Yeah, and so we all got in a room, like several meetings over 2 or 3 months.
Delco, AEP,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah. You're better memory than I do. So out of that become recommendations. Out of that process became the Sunbury Parkway Master Plan. And that's what was adopted last year, the mayor referred to, that was adopted in fall of 2024. So that's, the city has put their flag in the ground and said, this is what we see for this quarter. Now, we come to this next step, and this isn't called entitlement, the first part of this, the real zoning process. And it's a legislative procedure, and we develop standard rules that has become the framework that bring the property or the PCD that's proposed into alignment with the vision for the master plan. By way of example, on our site is 58 acres, is designated gateway mixed use and gateway residential. And in the master plan, there are defined primary and secondary uses. And there are defined goals like mixed use. And then there are defined goals about how that mixed use can be. Well, it could be vertical, all in, multiple uses in one vertical column, or it could be mixed use in an organized horizontally. But essentially that entitlement, this PCD is a regulatory document, it's passed and becomes law. And it governs development design, is what's really important. And it's the requirements. We're here right there, and we're starting that process. We'll go to as many planning commission meetings as we need to. Then after we're passed, it's amended, we'll go to council, it'll be voted on, we'll go on. The important thing about this slide is that's not where we get into the detail, the fine granular detail. There's still a third step in the process. And that third step in the process is administrative procedure, site specific. So let's say Chase Bank comes in and they say, we want to put a bank on your corner. And they read the PCD and they say, oh, our use is allowed. We know that if we're going to build a building, it generally has to meet this standard aesthetically. So we have to do on landscaping, the signage. And then they're going to sit down with their staff and they're going to go through and get their specific site signage approved, their specific, say that 3 times fast, specific building orientation, their specific parking for all of those fine details that Jason was talking about and asking about in this previous discussion. By the way, that's a beautiful building. That's a really nice building project. It's well done. That's where this happens. So when we think about this in the PCD and what you see in the application, it's not going to be this granular stuff, but it'll be things like Deborah talked about several weeks ago with the pending gas station application, which is, I like the site heavily, I think I remember this correctly, I like the site heavily landscaped, so that it's aesthetically pleasing, but the signage has to be good, as long as it's tasteful, so that people aren't driving around wondering where they're going. And so the PCD that we will submit is intended to address all those kinds of things. That's a lot, a mouthful, of a long talker, but is that helpful for everybody?
Absolutely.
Okay, so with that said, it's like shaving in the mirror. So now I think we'll just go on to some just kind of site characteristics. And then after that, we're going to talk about the guiding principles that we developed with the city collaboratively over the last 9 months, approximately. Is what are our guideposts for guardrails? So here you see an aerial photograph. Here you can see the site, 60 acres. Here's the outlet wall. This is my least favorite project in Delaware County, an apartment complex developed by Champion. This is the Ohio Health site. You can see the gray is the annexation corridor, and then these colors are your land use corridors, land use codes in your plan. This is, town square and historic Sunbury. You go to, did I somehow get this reduced? That's okay. So down here below, we're gonna go more granular. Here you can see the interchange. You see this specific site. The important thing about this site is that when we develop the PCP, we have to work within the confines that can fit the guidance and conform with the direction of the master plan. But we also have to deal with reality in terms of what's adjacent next to us. You can't, and this is okay to do that, you can't put a Rolls Royce dealership next to a Pioneer paper lot. It's just not compatible. And so one of the things that we've taken into consideration is, how do we transition from Berkshire Township into the city? And how do we transition, which is a master plan, spent a lot of time deliberately thinking about this, from more intensive uses at the interchange to less intensive uses as we go east and more community type scale stuff as we move over into this at least transition zone. From there, would you like to add anything to that? I mean,
I think you explained it. I mean, maybe in between this meeting and the next meeting, all the commission members can just do a quick refresh or a first look at the Sunbury Parkway District Plan, because I think it does a really good job talking about what you just covered. And that is that in and around the interchange, there's more intense uses, and then there's actually transitional nodes, and then kind of the historic nodes as you get closer to the downtown, our historic downtown.
Alex, are you all able to blow up this aerial so that it fills the whole screen, maybe? Okay, one more down. All right, so here, these aerials are truly a picture with 1,000 words. I think the best one is this one in the upper right-hand corner. See I-71 here. See Galena Road here. This is Tanger Outlet Mall. This is the Champion Project. Here's Wilson Road. Here are these little regional detention ponds that we talk about. You see them littered all over. Our goal is to eliminate those on our property and hopefully on the property to the south by setting this precedent. You can see the overpass being built, the Ohio Health site, what we call sub area A, and this big detention center. Then what's really important here is you see this green, this is a stream corridor that comes down along our north boundary and some wetlands that we preserved, won't be developed. But then you see this big kind of star of these lines running through the site here at a kind of an oblique angle. Those are those giant overhead electric transmission lines you see with the massive towers. And then under them, on our site and the Dye site and the Hidden Creek site, kind of running where you see this, where this has been mowed here, coming down here, is a massive high pressure 16-inch petroleum pipeline. And so there are real limitations on how close we can develop that, even when we work around it, we have to do all these protocols. So those are, this site should show you our constraints. Gives you an idea of the scope and scale of this detention basin here, which will be a meaningful part of open space, and it's nice. Gives you an idea that we have some geometric issues. So that's kind of the site in context. Anybody have any quick questions about that movement? Okay, great. So, I'm gonna take a breath.
Like water?
I didn't even take my jacket.
So with those power lines, what plans are there to work around or with those lines in the petroleum pipeline?
Essentially, our plans are to leave that as open space. We can't really do anything under them. Under the power lines, we can do parking, we can do soccer fields, but we can't do any vertical improvements. We can do the same, we can park over the transmission line. There's some additional cost to that. We have to do what's called bridging, to keep the parking from causing the line to deflect. What we've talked about with the city and the mayor's initiative on open space and green corridors is actually taking that hindrance and trying to turn it into an attribute, which I'll show you in the next slide. our thought is that they'll make either now or in the future, great connectivity corridors.
Potentially multi-use trails.
So now I'm gonna get back to my notes because I'm a little bit off script. And this is kind of where, you know, the rubber kind of meets the road, which is the PCD meet. And what are our guiding principles? This is what you really care about. The rest is all just history and context. You know, but let me go back. Our site's about 60 acres. Only about 40 to 45 are developed because of those issues we talked about. Detention pond, open space, wetlands, stream corridors, and utilities. So I'm going to start with guiding principle with 8. And I'm going to rely on Sean, Alex, or Daryl to remind me if I missed one. The first big one was historical context. And so we all decided that this PCD needed to reflect somebody's historical context or its brand. And then it needed to carry and extend that brand both ways, from the city square out to the freeway and the freeway back into the city square. And, you know, that is really important because you have a great brand. I mean, guys like, Albany company spends hundreds of millions of dollars to recreate what you already have in this town square. So it's really important that you leverage off what the history and the cultural context is of your downtown. The second was a high aesthetic quality, or high quality aesthetic, because I typed it. And the PCD needs to establish a clear differentiation between Berkshire Township and the city of Sunbury. And that's by establishing elevated landscaping, elevated hardscaping, so the streetscapes, the lighting, the signage, and that in turn creates an elevated resident and visitor experience. So Berkshire Township's nice, but they're on Wilson Road. The standards for landscaping on Wilson Road are very Spartan. If you come down to Wilson Road on our site, you're going to notice immediately when you come in some elevated corners, like anchors, and then a much elevated hardscape and landscape. Sidewalks, eyebrows at the corners where streets intersect, and the standards we have included in this application. You scare me a little bit, but that's good. That's good, healthy tension. They are identical to New Albany as you come out New Albany Road from the village of New Albany, the old core, up New Albany Road to 605. And they're also the same standards as you come up Johnstown Road 62, up from 60 and 161, going up to Alexander. So these standards are at the highest level of what's being done in Central Ohio. 3 was this, a third guiding principle was set precedent for surrounding properties. And what I mean by that is, by happenstance or choice or luck of the draw, we're kind of going first. The landowners to our south are really investors, not developers, and they're trying to find their way. They're great guys, but they're way behind us in the development process. And given our significant land holdings in this corridor, we don't want to do something really nice and then have somebody else come and do something schlocky. And so the goal here is to set a precedent for the surrounding landowners. And that means landowners that are in your master plan. And that means land in the city and landowners that might be covered in your master plan, like Hidden Creek, but not annexed yet. So we're really trying to say, hey, this is the precedent for this corridor. And you kind of transition in a scale and the status of product, not status, but the level of product. You have workforce housing west of the freeway with the apartments. and you have starter homes, and then move up homes in the Eagle Creek and Eagle Highlands. Then you move, to this core commercial core around the interchange with Ohio Health. And then it's kind of an elevated standard as you go all the way further east. Does that hit kind of what we're striving for? The fourth is meaningful connectivity and open space. That we've heard loudly and clearly and agree with. And this site really lends itself to that in some ways. So this is Wilson Road. This is Sunbury Parkway where it terminates, coming from west to east. From over the interchange, and this is the piece of Sunbury Road from Wilson to Galena that's not yet filmed. As you can see here, and you're gonna see some images of this that give a better feel for it. But you can see here, we've got brick hardscape and happenings here as you come in to the city from Berkshire Township from the north. It says, I've just made some type of mental tripwire, double row of trees, and then a third row in the right of way, and then a third row of trees on our property within the right of way. So you have a triple layer of deciduous trees at the same spacing that Albany and Westerville use. There'll be one curb cut right in, right out. This is a little north of where it is, I think, but it's essentially right here. And then the main full service entrance to our site is up here at the current terminus of Wilson Road. And there'll be a light there ultimately. And so this will be, you can turn left in, you can turn right in, full service turning movement. And you'll come into the site and enter this way until Sunbury Parkway is built. You can see here when I talk about connectivity, this is Sunbury Parkway is 140-foot wide right of way. So really wide right of way, and it was very deliberate on the city and the county's part, because it gives you this nice, you're kind of in a suburban environment, but it feels very rural because it's very generous. And so when you take the roadway and then add the additional right of way, and then you add an 11-foot, which this plan calls for 11-foot mixed multi-use, mixed modal trails and pathways on both sides, you feel like you're kind of having a rural, country experience, but then the buildings that are behind, irrespective of whether they sit in the parking lot front or in the back, it's really a non-factor because your view, your perspective angle, as you're driving through, because of the width and height of the trees. This is a more rural, softer environment. Sean, if I missed anything there, that's kind of what we're going for. The fifth one is really important, which is land uses that are stated in the master plan as primary and secondary uses. So in the master plan, the mayor's reference to review, and it's not a long read. I think it's worthwhile because it's going to inform everything we do over the next couple of years. Each use type, gateway mixed use, gateway residential, whatever it is, there's a section that says these are the primary uses we want. These are the secondary uses. These are uses that are prohibited. So obviously, if the goal here is to clean up an old PCD, which will go away, create this new PCD, we want the PCD to be in 100% alignment on land uses that are prescribed in the master plan. Flexibility, another real big one. A common mistake other developers make and that cities make is they get so locked into what the flavor of the day is and how they craft the PCD. And they craft it for what's going on right now in the market, or what a developer thinks he can get financed right this minute. And the truth of the matter is, we're in a radically different world from real estate development than we were 10 years ago. Think about how retail's transformed. Think about how office is transformed. If you told me 15 years ago that office will basically be a non-existent institutional grade asset, it's just changing. And so as a team, we got together and said, how do we make this conform and follow the master plan? But also give it some flexibility so that we're not trying to redo it in 3 years because something's changed. The seventh guiding principle was grounded in reality, which is, short and sweet. The PCD needs to be reflective of the demographic, economic, and marketplace realities. We think about big hallmark projects around Columbus, Rich Park, Polaris, and those are phenomenal projects. But for the demographics of this area today, I'm not saying 20 or 30 years, they're just not practical. Bridge Park received $150 million in county subsidy from Dublin, and their demographic density is 10 times when you go to a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius to what we have here. And so, we want our uses to be aspirational, we want them to be elevated, but they also have to be grounded in reality. One of the other reasons for that is that when the state and county funded Interchange and Wilson Road, they did not fund sanitary sewer and water utilities on Wilson Road. So it's just the roadway. That's kind of unusual. If you take Four Winds Drive across the way, the Wilcoxes are going, when that road's built, it'll be built all at the same time. The pavement, the lights, the curbs, and the utilities. And the reason that we have to kind of stay grounded in reality, what we can do today is that, as the mayor said consistently, growth has to fund growth and development has to fund development. And so if we're able to get started on developing this subunit A, which is a little over half our developable land, that should generate tax proceeds and financial proceeds to finish the completion of those critical utilities that not just benefit us, but also unlock the development potential for the land in our south. So, and then 8 is appropriate height, scale, and mass. And so when you think about that, you can think about, it always looks funny if you're going along and you have a 1, 2 story building and then an 8-story building, right? And so 1, the market may not be there, and 2, aesthetically, how does that feel? And so what we've talked about doing is keeping the height, scale, and mass here. It can go up to 55 feet or 85 feet, right? Go up to 85 feet, but it can be as low as 1 story, 1 tall story. And the goal there is the site to our south is 150 acres. The site is 60. All of Bridge Park is 30 acres. All of Bridge Park is more than 3 stories, is only 30 acres. All of Core Easton, when Les originally did it, is only 35 acres. These big mixed-use developments, they're not as big as you think. There's a core, and then they expand out from that core. And so the master plan talks about transitioning from commercial uses to residential uses, west and east. So your more core commercial uses, a hospital, supporting services for a hospital, things that you would see. You went to the Ohio Health Campus in Dublin, you would see a grocery store. You'd see 1 gas station, not 10 gas stations, 1 or 2 gas stations. You'd see a pharmacy. You'd see maybe 1 or 2 restaurants. Those are kind of the things you need if you're, if you think about from a pragmatic standpoint, if I'm coming to a healthcare campus, my parents are sick, or my child's sick, wife's sick, and I come down here into Sunbury, it's really nice. And gosh, I just want to go get a quick something to eat, or pick up my prescription, or grab groceries before I go home. And my only option is to go up into the rat's nest of 3637, have that experience, and then, go over to the buyer in Delaware or come over here. People need to be able to shop and transact, you know, in a way that's convenient for them, both in the growing quarter of Wilson Road, North Star, and this growing quarter of 75.
Hey, Jim, I know you got a lot of extra slides, so why don't I make sure the council, the commission members have a chance to respond?
So I'm gonna stop right there. Those are the guiding principles. I can quickly take you through elevations, sorry. These are the standards for the intersections. See the 3 rows of trees? I guess I'll in there. That was, I know, a long time, so thanks for bearing with me.
Any
Questions?
questions, comments?
No, it was very interesting and I really liked the summary you put together because it really helps bring all the different information that was already in my head back to the surface. So that when I'm looking at your future information, that it'll make sense now instead of trying to remember what I already knew.
Thank you.
Comments, feedback?
The things that you said, I think was under number 6 under flexibility, as you said something interesting that I've been thinking about for the last 5 minutes, is we don't know what we're going to want to do 10 years from now. And I guess 10 years ago, which would have been 2016, what are some things, I mean, I would have never guessed that there was a coffee shop every 5 feet in 2016. You would have said it to me, I'd be like, no, we don't drink that much coffee, but it's an amazing shift in the dynamic of this is what we do now. This is what our expectations are when we hop in the car. We're going to go get our coffee, then we're going to go get this. What are the changes that you see coming, or what have you seen that's changed in the last 10 years that's key that we would have never thought to do this 10 years ago, to kind of show how your plan takes that into account?
So let me start with looking backward. The existing Northgate Commerce PCD, I think, allowed 1 million square feet of retail space, 800,000 square feet. I mean, it was some number I can't even get my head around. I could get my head around it then, but I can't get my head around it now. And so the whole retail world has changed. And you see consumers less and less, and they kind of have 2 types of retail in real estate. They're barbell. There's day-to-day necessity retail, local retail, and there's experiential retail. What the applicant before me pitched, that small scale, 2-sided, boutique, that's experiential retail. East End is experiential retail. Bridge Park is experiential retail. That even the experiential retail is getting harder and harder and harder. And while people love Bridge Park, financially, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's been moderately successful economically, moderately, with $150 million subsidy.
I can say this, I talked to the mayor of Dublin, it's been probably 3 weeks now, but I just said like, hey, how is it going? She said, we won't know until after 30 years.
Yep, exactly.
Because there's been, so many trade-offs with the schools and the county, and the infrastructure is still, I mean, like heavily debt laden. At this point where she's like, I can't tell you if it's going to work or not. I think people enjoy it, but was it a good move financially for the city? She it was non-committal.
Well, I think on the private side, what I've heard is, I think the city and the developer, Crawford Language, phenomenal, world-class developer, are in the same boat. Some of those multifamily projects can barely cover their bank debt service coverage ratio. So they're full and they're beautiful. But the banks follow up and saying, this ain't going so well. So another Creekside, David, right? It's another example of Gahanna's, although Dion did a beautiful project. But it went fallow for 10 years. And so all the money, it's like 100% of zero is zero. All the money that the city was going to get never materialized. So big change, retail, office. Blackstone and BlackRock are divesting of all of their office, they're the two largest office holders in Brookfield, three in the world. They're divesting of all of it. With the suburbs first, moving to eventually working up to their core big cities. And that's because with AI and COVID changed the way we work forever. I mean, it changed the way we work forever without AI. And so office is just gone. And it used to be the backbone in the 80s and 90s when I kind of grew up in this business, 2000s. Every city wanted an office and they wanted like payroll taxes. And you couldn't, I mean, Skip Wilder would tell you he doesn't think he'll build another office building for 30 years. So those are the changes in the past. On the retail side, experiential retail, or not bread and butter retail, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Aldi's, grocery stores. The bottom line is you're not going to AI groceries out of somebody's life. Maybe some people get them by subscription or online, but basically most of us are still going to want to go to the grocery store, wherever you are on the shopping spectrum, and look at your produce and look at what you're buying and see it and take it out. So I don't think that changes. Pharmaceuticals, the same thing. Pharmacies, in terms of fast casual dining, I think it's here to stay. I think Americans are addicted to their cars and we're not going to be out of our cars. I think even when we have self-driving cars, we'll be waiting in the Starbucks line. So I don't think that changed. I think it's a place that I have a love-hate relationship with it. I think that's here to stay. Medical campuses. I served on the Healthcare and Life Science Council for 5 years for the Urban Land Institute, in the country. It's interesting. We all thought that technology would reduce the amount of medical space we needed. And it's been just the opposite. Technology, because the new care we can provide expands so quickly. And it's like when James just built another $25 billion tower. And it will be full. I mean, literally, I heard from the guys that run real estate for the university, it's going to be at capacity to the AAO. So I think medical is here to stay. That's all good news for this master plan. Looking forward, I don't know. Car dealerships, I think, worry me looking forward. There is no, I have a lot of friends that are car dealers, but there is no, maybe the third worst experience in the world going and buying a car. And they look at Carvana and stuff and supposed to deliver your car. And so I think that's an at-risk category. I think specialty dealerships like the AMG Mercedes dealership where people are hitting the top of the market and that customer wants to go have an experience. You're an experiencer and they want to buy an AMG or a Rolls Royce or a BMW or Mercedes. They're going to go there. I think for the rest of us folks that just are buying a Toyota, most of us are going to do it online in 10 years. That process is just going to get better. I think dining out is a risk category. I think inflation's here to stay. And this younger generation is I have daughters that are 16 and 22. I don't want somebody I don't know bringing my food. They're totally down with it. Is the bag stable? I mean, but so I think that helpful answer.
Very, yeah, those are very helpful points. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to mention, Mark Long and I and some others have been, Jason, thank you, have been meeting with Mr. Shrim and his team for the past several months, talking about, corners and traffic and aesthetics and signage and tree lawns and how people move, uses, materials, things like that. So, I would encourage you, if you have time in between now and the next meeting you saw the timeline. This isn't like a one and done. There's time to meet with them one-off if you have questions, but they'll be here for at least a few meetings, right?
I would think at your discretion, we'll be here as long as we need to be here. But what I would offer to the mayor to sit on is, I don't know, maybe it was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, the mayor and I were just getting to know each other. I said, one of the things that people have a hard time understanding is you can look at this site on a map and it's just lines. But when you drive out to the site in my pickup truck, and we drive through the site, and you look at our site and Berkeley site, the interchange, it truly gives you an idea for the scale and magnitude. I mean, 250 acres of land that's a contiguous planning block is a massive amount. It's 30 years of land development inventory. And, I really do think, I was brought up in a school by old school mentors that now are in their 80s and 90s, which they said, the first thing you do in any real estate venture, you go look at Durham. Because that's where it all starts. So I'm more than happy if you'd like to reach out to Daryl to take one or two of you, I know we have to be respectful of the sunshine rules, that, and just, it takes 30 minutes. Drive out to the site, we drive around, you have to put up with my dusty truck and probably my bird dog, but it's not a horrible experience, and, look at the site. And that, for that matter, if you want to meet at city offices and walk through the application, I'm happy to do that.
And the other thing I would say on the in-person, if you do take Mr. Shrim up on that, I think you'll notice it's not flat. I mean, you would think it is based on the overhead, or even if you're sitting at the end of the Wilson Road by Tanger, it still doesn't give you the feel of the topography out there. And it will very clearly demonstrate why the detention pond is where it is, just due to the wetlands and the topography.
To the mayor's point, we didn't fill any of the wetlands, we didn't fill any of the stream borders. We built the detention pond, we filled part of our site, and all of that was 220,000 cubic yards of dirt that we moved. It changed the topography. That would be a hole 10 feet deep, 20 acres in size. That's how much topography there was out there. And so it's really, the so much of how the site is laid out and where the pond end was driven by how do we put the pond someplace where topographically makes sense, but also the land that has a goofy shape, next to the power lines and stuff, so that if you have soccer fields under that stuff or a mixed use trail, it's also right next to the pond.
Good point. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, preliminary presentation 37 East Granville Street, commercial site plan. The applicant is presenting plans for a proposed commercial building site plan for redevelopment of the property. Welcome. Oh, well, how are you?
Hello. Hi.
Project, and that's my partner. We're representing the client. They were on vacation, so they just can't be here tonight. So we're here to just kind of give you an overview of what's going on, and actually you can see the site from this window. So I'm sure you all know pretty well, it's just 37 Granville. What used to be that blue gable building right here. So I can kind of just talk you through what happened, and I don't know if you do any intro, but we can talk through what Alex, Daryl, John, and I have all been discussing for a while. So as you can see, the existing building was a just single story blue gable, and over the winter when we got all that snow, they had a roof collapse, and they had a structural engineer come take a look, and it basically undermined the structural stability of the exterior walls, so they deemed it a demo. So as you can see now on site, and you go out and look at it, they took everything down, but the foundation remains, and that's actually in pretty good shape. So that worked out for Kelly and Brad, because we plan on reusing it. So we've had a structural engineer take a look at it, and the idea is really to use the existing footprint. There's a basement and a crawl space, and we're kind of building up from there. So what will be in the new space is, this is the basement. So that's all basement, crawl here, which you can see on site now. So we'll plan to keep all of that. And then this is the first floor. So on the new first floor, we plan to have 2 offices. So Kelly and Brad both run their own businesses. So they will have kind of side-by-side offices for them and their staff. The plan is mostly, it's really pretty simple, conference room, a couple offices, kitchenette, bathrooms for their employees. Pretty bare bones, pretty basic. They each get an entry on the front, and then I will step back to the porch at some point, but I just wanted to run through the layout. In the back, they're working on a couple 2-bedroom apartments. They're working on the layouts for that. In the first phase of this, they'll probably just have a shell of it. They're really good goal is they're both practicing business people currently, and they just want their office back. So the plan is that these 2 spaces this one here, and this one will be fully built out. This, we kind of call it a white box, so it'll be drywalled in, fully finished. When they're ready to do those, apartments, I'll come back and put in like the kitchenette and the bathroom, those kind of things. So that's what we're doing now, then we go up, because we are rebuilding this, we're taking advantage of the ability to do a second floor. So, above their two offices, we're gonna create what we're calling also a white box tenant space, so that will potentially be another office. They're going to rent it out, so it'll be rental income for them. They're not in talks with anyone that we know of right now for what it will be, so it's pretty simple. It'll have a bathroom for them, some mechanical storage, possibly some rough-ins for like a kitchenette if another office goes up there or anything, and access for that will be off the alley, so we're planning, maybe a little awning at the entrance side, and maybe a little signage or something there, but that's all kind of like future phase there. And then in the rear, so this will be a 2-hour dining wall. We have our layout for the apartment, and again, this is just to work with County Grid. This will likely just be roughed in to begin with. We'll go through all the permitting processes and get it approved. But it'll be a bathroom, a small kitchen, and then 2 bedrooms here. And they both, in order to meet code, we need direct egress out, so it'll have its own exterior share. And that is pretty much the layout of it. And then this is the facade we're working on with Kaliningrad, and one thing that we wanted to talk to you guys about when we talked with Daryl, Alex, and Sean about is the front porch. So the front porch that used to be there actually encroached into the right of way. It went past the property line. So what we're really hoping is that we can build back some of the encroachment, actually a little bit less than before, because what they had before was 2 steps up and then a concrete porch. Because we're rebuilding new, we want to meet the ADA accessibility requirements, so we're taking out those stairs. That porch will be dropped to that grade, a threshold, and we would like to still have kind of the posts for the right of way. I believe we're working with our surveyor to verify. This survey is like slightly tilted from the property line. I believe we're requesting about a 4'10" easement or into that right of way, which is, I believe they're about 7 feet now, so we're coming back a little bit from it because we don't need those stairs. So that's something we've been talking with Daryl a lot about, is just to make sure that like when you're walking down that road, you actually will feel like it's less encroaching than it currently is. So that's something we've been really pushing for. And then our goal is really to make this facade, still working on materials, but just be really welcoming and kind of have that, we've gone back and forth between, is it commercial, is it more residential feeling? It kind of does this hybrid thing. Kaliningrad really like kind of the southern aesthetic, so we're thinking gas lanterns on this, nice railings. They even have purchased stone already that will wrap the facade, so trying to do some things that will look really nice, probably a board and batten look or shingle type look, but yeah, a nice focus on the front because this is your square and it's really, I mean, it's focusing on this building, so yeah, that's what we're looking at there. The side facades are a little bit simpler. We really just are giving some simple office windows, taking that stone aside, and then the stair in the back. Otherwise, we're really just matching the footprint that was there. We're just really doing that 1 story above. And yeah, here's some references, images that like Brad was giving us. So we're working with them, but what we wanted to do and what we kind of here tonight was just to get like preliminary comments from you guys before we went too far and I did something correct, if that makes sense. So, really anything about it? Sorry about fast, but that one was long. Just for you guys. Yeah, let me have your questions.
Mention it, I'm glad they're going 2 stories. That was the first thing I thought about when
Yeah.
they collapse. I mean, it's extremely rare when you lose a building and you're able to rebuild on the same footprint. So adding the intensity and use, I think, is a great move. I mean, once in a lifetime move, for sure. I believe I like the mixed use concept and like the the adding additional revenue sources and things like that. I'm not sure about the southern residential vibe. To me, I don't know that there's enough detail on like what I'm looking at to say yes or no, but it doesn't feel like it fits. I would say try to make it look less residential but more inviting. I guess at the same time, I don't know how you achieve that. I'm really bad at this stuff, but I can say that, that bottom right picture doesn't feel like the Sunbury Square. I know that the Myers Inn is probably maybe like the closest thing to that. And we have, you know, a couple single family home feeling buildings on the square, but they probably stand out as the exception.
Yeah, I would say our ceiling heights is something Kelly's really pushing for. They're tall, so this is going to feel tall on the sites. I think that will help with the scale change. It's not to feel too residential. It's not just like a little porch that you're seeing. Like these are going to be tall columns. I think we have right now we have like 10-foot floor to ceiling and then a deep second floor structure. So it's going to feel pretty grand overall, which I think will help. And it's wider than this and a little bit taller. I think that'll help with like the presence on the square. And I think some of the detailing is a little bit more that southern style, but we can definitely do something that's a little more like fitting with the type of style that's around here.
I would call this like more like a Federalist feel.
Yeah.
Like on the square,
Yeah.
and
Just
don't know
period.
that that's
Yeah.
exactly it.
And you could even just like pay homage to the original, like what was before even the blue building, probably. I assume that's not the original from like whenever the town was kind of growing and in its heyday, and just taking you know, the trim, whether that's dental molding, whatever those kind of, you know, just I guess that's an homage, right? And that's
Yeah.
just kind of a nod. And in that it may just feel more warm and cozy in that way, where the client can still get their
Yeah.
vision, right? I mean, that's what an architect does, right? So
Yeah.
you run with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just maybe some ideas. Yeah.
Getting into this context.
Yeah, and I think of the diner. Sunbury Diner does have an apartment above, if I'm not mistaken, where they have like flowers up there. So when I saw this, that's just kind of the thought. Doesn't make it right or wrong. That's just, you know, something to reference when you look at the square, I guess.
I like the historical feel, maybe not quite the Southern Belle Savannah look, but I do like the Southern style. Cause what the Southern or the historical look does, it has all this architectural details. And one of the things I noticed on A202 was the side of the building, with it being a second story, bringing some of that architectural detail down the side, because that's going to be in such of a view of everyone going to a second story. That would be appropriate. And then with doing the second story and having other tenants, where you have the stairs, having an overhang, or even bringing a covered roof or something like you do in the front, because going upstairs that are open to it leaves it look undressed.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. We can definitely put our listening.
And so just to be clear, I'm looking at A101. There's two front doors. These are two completely separate businesses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And this is how they.
will operate out of one. So we're literally building Fort Belly and then Fort so it's like
Okay,
they wanted Oregon, one Stitcher.
fantastic. Will there be I also work with my husband. So will there be an adjoining door like is between the two, right? So they don't have to get outside.
Raising the existing basement, we have to get the stair where we can get the stair essentially to get to the basement. So there likely will be a kind of a door that connects them. Probably one of those hotel-esque doors where you get a door to both sides, because if they ever do rent it out to some sort of future and it's not them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, the plan. In case your chemicals are in the basement and they need access to those kinds of things, or servers and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
My last question is, and this may be farther down the line, but parking. If we're talking about, you know, apartments and parking spaces, just do we have thoughts on that?
So parking, we are really trying to match what they have there. So currently they have 4 spaces in the rear and then 3 here, and then both of the adjacent parcels seem to kind of pass the room. I don't know what is currently in use or like how it truly functions, but that would give them maybe a little more space in parking. But I think this is has been functioning for them. They have been using the space as is for a while, so.
We're doubling the use, or more, quite a bit. More.
Yeah, I think the thought with the apartments is most of the time those people will be gone during the day. It's kind of opposite uses in a way, so, when you're, going to the office, the other person is presumably gone and at night they come home, so I think it'll largely work out. I believe Killing Bread already had an apartment, so they were functioning prior, before the collapse. So.
Do they have an apartment?
He had 3 businesses.
After businesses, okay. Yeah, I don't know, I never saw the original building because there's not no idea.
I think that that's just maybe something that could be fleshed out a little,
Yeah.
more clear in the next, because if I have an apartment, especially if there's, let's say, 2 apartments, and there's a husband and wife, they've got kids,
Yeah.
but you're only giving me 1 parking spot, then where's my sibling gonna, or my spouse gonna park? They're gonna park in the square, which takes away from the square. So it's just a logistics
Yeah.
thing. It's not good or bad, it's just, something maybe we'd like to see.
Yeah, we can definitely maximize, I think, based on the narrowness of it, we're kind of maximizing it as much as possible. I do know that there is a lot on the street, and I'll have to ask them, do a lot of their clients park in the rear, or do they park in the front? I don't know how that works.
I would encourage them to talk to the adjacent property owners. You asked if it was, I think it was rhetorical, like, is it functional? It's not really functional. In that, like, there's like a driveway kind of that crosses several private properties right there.
It's your building.
It does.
Yeah. So I don't think that's what kind of street that is.
But I guess what I'm getting at is I would highly encourage Kelly and Brad to talk to the adjacent property owners to figure out if they can do something like, I don't know, get rent parking from the people next to them or something. Come up with some agreement, because I know from a city perspective, like, this area has always been pretty challenging for us because we don't own it. And I don't know. I think we just need to have a little bit more comfort around the parking. That's something we thought about as well.
So could be wrong, is there a parking requirement that we're not meeting? I thought we looked at the zoning, C3, and it didn't see one.
There's general parking for all districts in the general development standard towards the back. I'll send you the specific links to it so you can take a look at that. It'll depend on the uses ultimately, but if it's insurance and mortgage, for sure, I think it's 200, 1 space per 200 square feet.
But if they have 2 apartments or something.
Yeah, I'll have to double check apartments. I don't know that one off the top of my head because we don't get too many of those, but for mortgage offices and for real estate, any of that, those types of offices are usually 200 per.
We would just hate for them to like super lean into the idea of apartments, right? If we're not future planning for that.
I also don't want to deter them from I think it's a really good concept. I
Yeah.
mean, what they're trying to do. So
Mhm.
there's a way this can be solved. Hopefully we can knock out a couple birds with a stone.
Is the new building going exactly on the same foundation, or is it expanding at all?
No, using it exactly, so you can go out and see the footprint of it right now. I think the only part, I mean, that stair will have a new footer and new foundation under it, but everything else is new. And that stair, I believe, the porch is still there, it needs to be demoed out, but that will go away. So if you're out there, our new porch will go approximately where the old one is, we're getting rid of those stairs, so it's like an additional 2 feet back.
Can I ask staff to just consider if we did any streetscape improvements, like how this 4-foot, I know there was a 7-foot overhang originally, but what does a 4-foot look like? I mean, that stretch, including the coffee shop, is like slanted and somewhat dysfunctional. Remove
Drinking
the
your
somewhat.
coffee. Yes.
I got a couple comments. If you had not provided this picture of that blue building, I could not have told you what that building looked like.
Sure.
And I say that to point out how unremarkable some of the buildings on this square may be. Maybe that's just me. I don't possess the nostalgia of having lived here for 30 or 40 years. I've lived here for 10 years. But I think you have an opportunity in front of you with this design to maybe set a standard. Now, I don't think any of these other buildings are gonna fall down anytime soon, so maybe there won't be anybody to follow in your footsteps in a, reasonable time period. But every time we get a presentation from someone, almost invariably, there's a picture of this building on the front page of what Sunbury means. And when they're trying to tell us, this is what Sunbury looks like. Could you try to find a way to include this aesthetic of this building in your building, rather than taking something very unique? And I agree. I think when I saw it, I was like, what are they doubling Myers in? Because it's got the second level. But I do think that some of the buildings in this square have been built up over many, many years. So they've been, buildings built in the 70s and the 90s are not going to look like, because that's not the current thing. So, but I'll say again, some of the buildings on the square are unremarkable. If I close my eyes and try to think of what that building looked like without a picture, I couldn't have drawn a picture. So use this opportunity, I guess, is my hope and recommendation, to create something that's pleasing, that does fit in, and try to. I mean, I like the Southern thing, but I know that people would come out of it crazy if it was that far different. There wasn't anything similar. This building's going to be here for a long time, I think. So if you can pull from something that everybody does like, I think you would get a pretty good response.
I did a quick Google search while we were looking, and I think what I'm saying is that what that looked like to me was like New Orleans. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Charleston. Yeah, something like that. Maybe maybe a step back would be something more like Jeffersonian, or something like Mount Vernon, and not Mount Vernon, Ohio.
Yeah, sure.
Like that seems like maybe it's one step back towards like what the town square kind of feels like.
Yeah, I think that was a good comment about like the detailing of this building is a good like anchor to connect to that. And I think the form and the massing is kind of just where we started. We haven't really gotten into like
Sure.
what does the actual detailing of the materials like that. So, and I think this is a good reference. Also, if you missed anything, we gotta get this.
Not that I think, no.
Okay, so my takeaways are parking, look at that. I guess our biggest thing was that encroachment in the right of way, and just making sure, like, checking the temperature of the room, how people felt on that, knowing that it was an existing condition.
That's not our decision.
Is it? That encroachment, is that planning and zoning commission's approval?
It would be if it's a state.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Would the encroachment be a zoning approval process, or, and I think Daryl referenced, because it's the site plan, it does deal with something different, so.
We're looking into that, determining exactly what we need to do.
Okay, thanks. At first glance, I would say it's not a big deal, other than I would just like to understand if we were to, like, the goal is to have kind of what we have on the east side of the square somewhat emulated along like the entire square, and wouldn't want to get to a point where we're like, oh shoot, now we need to tear down your front porch or something.
Yeah, when we took a look at, the adjacent properties, kind of down the coffee shop, and they really helped me kind of come out of their way to that line we're going to, whether it's kind of like open items in the antique store, like out to that line, like they have an outside display area. I don't know if that ever goes away or how permanent that is, but then similar to coffee, they kind of have an outdoor seating area that seems to hold that same line of the parking, right, or sorry, of the sidewalk right here. So really everything, like, this is where an antique shop is, and they kind of have their outside display pretty much up the line, and that's what we're trying to pull.
Does it kind of line up with the District 13 fence? That would be the fence over the.
So theirs was, they're one property over, but it's about here, which it lines up with our, yeah, so.
Yep, for me, I would want it to either align with the rest or a little bit behind, but align with, I wouldn't want to extend further past the rest of the, especially with what the mayor said, with some of the potential street modifications that could happen in the future. I wouldn't want that to be impactful.
Yeah, our thinking kind of was, this is a little bit of maybe not a full grandfather situation, but it's something that was demoed and we're kind of building back and taking advantage of the second floor. So in a way, it's grandfathering in, but adding some more presence on the street.
It was 7 foot. Is that like the overhang or was that where like the steps started?
7 foot was from the base of the building to, this red lines here are where the stair steps start.
Okay.
So that was it. So we're basically just taking out the stairs. Was that, I guess
So it's
that's
3 foot.
Was a stair, or each stair was 1 foot long, so 2 feet back.
Okay.
In our building, the face of the foundation is about 1 foot 2 back from the property line, so that's why we're not asking for the full 6 foot encroachment, we are set back a little bit.
Yeah, so we definitely talked a little bit about that. So where the current porch went and the overhang, it sounds like this is gonna be back just a little bit from where that used to exist. So really it's the stairs that extend out into the sidewalk that will be eliminated. The other thing we talked about is also eliminating that sign. It's kind of in the middle, it's not in the middle of the sidewalk, but it's kind of in that sort of area that you public space in which you navigate, it's in the public right of way. Really talk about eliminating that sign, and kind of open up the space in front of the building a little bit more.
Nice.
People can navigate.
Where will the signage be then?
I guess that was kind of the options, if they're allowed to do some encroachment, they would be willing, they have a pretty nice fin sign here. They would be willing to give that up and do signage probably on the building, maybe an awning style or something like that, I know they like the sign right now, so there's an option to keep it, but I understand we're kind of weighing a couple things, so that was something kind of talked about.
Yeah, they might, I hate sign.
I'm just saying that it's non-standard. I mean, for sure. So I think this is the opportunity. I mean, we're encouraging like the redevelopment of the site. Let's look at it comprehensively.
I think they understand that if they are able to, if they're encouragement, they understand that they're, taking some overlay, they'd be willing to give up this one and then do something more in line with from the other side of the around.
Any other feedback? Yes.
Your statement, things that are similar to things around. I'd be very, for me, be careful because just because it's in some of these other buildings doesn't mean that's what we want the direction to be. And so that's a fine line there. So you're kind of like starting anew, and as you saw and you sat through the Sunbury Parkway, all this happening and revitalization going on, you're kind of stepping into that arena, but in a perfect opportunity to be the first one to set the standards. So don't limit yourself to what somebody else has. If it fits better with the style of that the building and everything like that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you back soon. Our next item on the agenda, are there any visitors in the audience? Right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes on April 27th.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Palmer, discussion. Roll call?
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Palma,
Yes.
Mrs. Stark,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Abstain.
Mrs. Miller,
Abstain.
3 yeas, is it?
No.
That gets into the rule or technically passed, but just so you know, just because you weren't here at a previous meeting, does not mean that you cannot vote to approve. You're a commission member, you are here tonight.
Then I'll vote yes.
Approve or deny. We've gone into this a few times in the past.
Okay. I'll vote yes then. It's, you grew up that you abstained.
You would abstain if there was a conflict of interest, that anyone of you had individually, then absolutely you would abstain from that. Just simply not being at the previous meeting is not a ground that would require you to have to abstain.
Right, so 4-1.
One motion approved.
All right, next item on the agenda, the zoning report.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 20 zoning certificates from the first of the month to this past Friday, 14 of which are new builds. Of the 14, 7 are for multifamily, 7 are for single family. That puts us, I mean, about where we've been the rest of the year, kind of double digits, but fluctuating more than last year. And we are above 11 new builds higher than last year, where we were in May. Some bigger news, we have, as you'll see in our units in development, the last page of the document, we did develop 200, or we had 240 units approved with a zoning certificate as of May 2026. That is going to be the 3-story walk-up apartments that are over in Woodland Lakes, right where we were talking about with Jim Shrim across of 71, where the parkway will be. On the southern end of that, there are 240 units in 7 3-story walk-up buildings. I don't know if you guys remember, but the other half of that project was the single-family 6 to 8 units apartment buildings as well. That kind of goes from Four Winds down to where the parkway will be. So that development is fully underway on the 3-story walk-up side. And then I believe they've gotten a few of the single-story 6-unit buildings underway as well. So that project is fully going now at about 61%. Zoning certificates going. And I know that we'll have occupancies following up probably later this year. Puts us year to date, single family, we've had 46 single family units in development, and then multifamily, we're up to 284 now. All of those being Woodland Lakes developments for 330 units on the year to date. With that, any questions for zoning or planning? Any questions?
Yeah, where were we on the multifamily? I don't know if you know, for last year at this time.
Great question.
It just seems like a lot.
Yeah, and when I wrote the number, I said the same thing. So this, typically we don't get developments like this all in one go. I think the next closest one, we've had the residential hotel, which is up off 3637. They had substantial amount, but I believe that was earlier or later in the year last year. The only other thing we would have had would have been the Sunbury Commerce Park apartments. And I think those were even prior to this point last year, but that was about 120. So we haven't had anything quite to this scale, especially being 3-story walk-ups. We haven't had anything like that since we had the Ravines approved back in, I think, 2023 on the other side of 71 as well.
Okay, thanks.
Alex, oh, wait.
Okay. Yeah, something on the zoning report?
No.
Okay, discussion new business, Mrs. Stark? Mrs. Miller?
Yes, when you do your year-end report or annual report, one of the things that I would like to see on your zoning report is total apartments or multifamily units in the city and total housing units in the city.
The total, are you saying those are separate or
Just those two numbers added to the
how
report.
units would include apartments?
Well, this single family,
Okay, single family, got it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, single family and multifamily.
Yeah.
Got it.
But just to be clear, you're not asking for the new one to negative here, you're talking about what is the
Total.
inventory in the city.
Mhm.
And that, okay.
Do you have any specifications on, like, so I have right now residentials and then occupancy permits approved. So once they
Nope.
hit occupancy, they'll be a part of that whole count, but we'll keep the division up. They're in development or they are existing.
Mhm.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, so occupancy permitted.
Yep, or in development. Those are our categories. Got it.
Anything else? Mr. Palma?
Nope.
Good. Mr. Stoughton?
I don't suppose, or I guess I'm asking, was there a one-off that you were not planning on providing paper copies? Or are we trying to reduce paper?
We are trying to reduce. I did put in there, if you wanted a copy, I can print copies early for pickup at the municipal building, and then I will have copies for you guys at these meetings regularly as
Just
well.
not delivering them anymore?
Just not delivering them. Yes, sir.
We did,
Bring
we
it
down.
down.
Yeah, put me down for the paper every time, please.
Yeah, me too.
I make lots of notes.
I'm a paper person every time too.
Right.
And I can come get them.
Come get some. Yeah.
Yeah, I admit it. When
That's all you have a choice.
Typically end of the week, they'll definitely be ready by Friday. I'll start sending in the emails and when they're ready for pickup. So typically Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is usually when I send that email. But that email will now include the PDF of the whole packet, and then it'll announce that it's ready for pickup at the municipal building.
Okay.
I read the whole packet. It didn't have the 37 stuff in it.
They just came on today. So I
It didn't have
edited
zoning
it,
report either.
which also came on today. So I edited that in this one. Yes.
The asterisks. Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Stoughton?
No, thank you.
All right, good deal. Next meeting, 4th Monday in June. The date
I will not be here next meeting.
unapproved.
My grandson beat you.
22nd of June.
I will not be here.
Alright. What was the date? 22nd of June. I'll be here. So I'll check that.
Fourth Monday, is there?
Yeah.
Do we know if Mark said he was questionable? Yep, 22nd of June is correct.
Did you say we need to look for another date? Mark's not gonna be here.
It is potential. I'll confirm with Mark, but I do believe he said he would not be available in the June meeting as well.
Okay, so we have 5 Mondays, the 29th. Can we take a look at that?
29th? Yep, we can look at
We'll be here.
Unapproved. What about
I will be here the 29th, yes.
29th? Sure. Okay,
I would be here.
let's,
Plan for the 29th. If there's any changes, I'll update you on.
I'm not available the 15th, so if we decide to go,
Yeah, that would be the if we have it.
I'm either here the week before or week after. I'm okay.
perfect. Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn.
second.
Second by Mr. Palma. Discussion? Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Palma,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mrs. Stark,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion, we are adjourned.